Alrighty, so today we are going to finish up the review looking at the last 9 games that are the busy Saturday night action, and I gotta say, this was one of those week where, yeah, it was a rough week when it comes to the team that I root for, and I'll talk about why exactly in just a bit. But let us begin with the first of 9 games that we're going to review, and it's a marquee matchup that we saw in terms of the Saturday night action. I'm pretty sure a lot of people were looking forward to this one between Charlotte versus FC Cincinnati because this could be a matchup we might be seeing in the playoffs. And in the end, it's Charlotte with a 2-0 win, and in a matchup that it's very similar to what we saw when Charlotte was able to get a 2-0 win against Atlanta United, scoring 2 quick goals coming out of the second half, and they made that stick for the rest of the game. Now, in the first half, Ajiman was in on goal there, but he was denied by Salatano. In fact, he hits that one right to Salatano as that was the game's first shot. Evander then hits it right to Kalina as that was the first shot for Cincinnati. Zaha then pulls it wide from long range, and then Kalina would deny Evander from close range as it was a lively start for this game. Both of these teams were definitely getting some good chances. And one thing I've noticed in terms of the 7:30 start compared to last week is that the action definitely was a little bit faster compared to what we saw last week, where if you recall last week pretty much all the 7:30 game didn't even feature a goal in the first half. But in the 19th minute, Kubo would hit one right to Kalina. The game did start to slow down a bit as the chances were hard to come by after that. But Buka did have the last chance before the first half, but he missed just wide from long range. And we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, Pep Biel would put it wide on the free kick before Kalina would deny Oriano from long range. But then just a couple of seconds later, on the other end, Leo Abada would score the first goal of the game for Charlotte FC, and he can thank that Cincy back line for this because it was a miss header that pretty much sent Abada in on goal there, and he made no mistake to give Charlotte a 1-0 lead. And then just 3 minutes later, it would be 2-0 in favor of Charlotte, as Patrick Ajiman would score from Bio and Melenda to make it 2-0 in favor of Charlotte. It was just a very lovely work attack there from Charlotte. But also, yeah, the Cincinnati defense clearly had not showed up in the second half. They were giving way too many good chances for Charlotte to begin the second half. Salatano then denied Zaha from long range before Kalina denied Kubo from close. Evander then hits it right to Kalina in the 63rd minute as Cincinnati was pressing back to look for one back in this one. Abada then hits it just wide from the corner, and then the post would deny Evander on the free kick. And this is where, even though it was still 2-0 in favor of Charlotte, and I know this is a very good defensive team, you kind of had a sense that for Dean Smith's side, he would love to see his team to get a third goal to really put this out of reach because Cincinnati was really starting to get back into this game. Diani did try to make it free in the 80th minute, but he missed wide there. But then in the 83rd minute, this was pretty much maybe the end of Cincinnati comeback as Gilberto Flores would get a second yellow card in this game. Evander then hits one right to Kalina in the 90th minute before Kalina denied Oriano from close range. And even though I said that, it feels like it's kind of the end of Cincinnati comeback. They did still had some couple of chances late in this one, and really with 3 points to carry, you just kind of had a sense now that Polina wants that clean sheet, and for the reigning goalkeeper of the year, he wants to have another clean sheet in this one. He's already racking up early in this season. The last chance of the game saw Salatano denied Tugamadi from the header, but we do finish this game with Charlotte winning 2-0 against Cincinnati. The shots in this one, 17 shots with the 13 Charlotte has. It was actually really entertaining game, and both teams actually had fair amount of chances. 5 shots on goal for the 8 that Cincinnati has. 3 shots off target for the 4 that Charlotte has. 4 shots on block for the 5 that Cincinnati has, and possession-wise, 50% for both of these teams. And really, the difference in this one was that Charlotte was just a little bit more clinical in this game compared to Cincinnati. I mean, I didn't think Cincinnati played a bad game in this one, but yeah, when you're facing the likes of Charlotte, a really good defensive team, and you're facing the reigning goalkeeper of the year, you got to make sure you put away your chances. And another problem for Pat Nolan's side, at least from what I've seen in this season, is that winning these these big games against teams that they might be facing down the line in the playoffs in the early part of the season. Now we're still very early into the season, and that maybe change as the season goes along. But that's got to be a concern if you're a Cincinnati fan with the way that when you're facing against a playoff rival, you need to win these games to really kind of send a message that you are going to be a team that could be a threat later on in the season and heading into the playoff in the East, because as I said, the Eastern Conference is going to be a bit of a bloodbath, just like what we saw last season as well. So that being said, moving on in the next matchup, and two teams that probably might not be in a factor by the end of the season, because these two teams that I have a feeling, judging by how they play early in the season, it doesn't look like they might make it this year in the playoffs. And while it played into a 0-0 draw in this one, this was a game of missed opportunity for both of these teams, especially in DC perspective. They probably should have won this game. Owusu had the first chance of the game, but he hits it wide from close before Stroud would hits it wide from close in the 7th minute. Benteke then hits one right to Siwas before the post would deny Herberts from long range. And again, just like this game, it was a very lively start to this one as well. Both teams was pressing for the opening goal. Benteke would then hit it wide from close before Owusu would hit it high from close range in the 22nd minute. Owusu has really got off to a great start with Montreal. It's just unfortunate the fact that he hasn't had a lot to show for. And then the post would deny Herberts again in the 26th minute. So Fabian Herbert's getting the first start with Montreal in this one. It's kind of weird seeing him in a Montreal jersey instead of a Fire jersey, consider how long he's been with the Chicago Fire. But yeah, he was kind of snake bitten tonight with the post, with him hitting two inside just 26 minute. And then in the 27th minute, this was probably the closest we saw the ball hitting into the back of net, because Benteke actually puts it. Problem was, they did go to VAR to see whether or not if Benteke did handle that ball as he was controlling it, and yes, he did. And it was pretty obvious, so that goal was topped off. Piani would then miss wide from close in the 34th minute before Benteke would head it right to Siwas in the 36th minute, and DC was definitely pressing hard to get the opening goal after having their opener disallowed just 10 minutes ago. Siwas then tipped Benteke from close range before Priani who puts it right to Siwas in the 3rd minute of stoppage time. But we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, more pressure from DC. We see Benteke puts it wide from close in the 46th minute before Siwas absolutely robbed Garrett Stroud in the back post there. As again, DC kind of picked up where they left off. They were looking to get the opener, but can they do so? Well, Rolas tried to do so, but he hits it right to Siwas. Montreal, I thought, eventually did ride out the pressure. They were under all sorts of pressure coming out of the second half, but the good news is they did kind of ride out of that pressure, and as the game goes on, they actually had a couple of chances of their own to steal all 3 points in this one. It started in the 75th minute when Kim, who hasn't done much in this game, he had to deny Duke on the free kick before Ibrahim would flash it wide from long range in the 89th minute. And like I said, Montreal, not only they able to ride out the heavy pressure that DC put for them, they were looking to steal one late in this game, but ultimately it was not meant to be, as it ends in a scoreless draw in this game. And the shots in this one, 18 shots for the 12 that Montreal had, 7 shots on goal compared to 3 that Montreal has in this one. Jonathan Siwas had a really good game in this one for Montreal. 6 shots off target compared to 3 that Montreal has. 4 shots that was blocked compared to 3 that DC had. And possession-wise, 51% possession compared to 49% possession that Montreal has in this game. And I believe this is also the first point that Montreal had secured this season. So again, there are progress for Laurent Courtois' side, despite the fact that they're still giving up way too many chances, as we saw in this one. And if it wasn't for DC being so wasteful in front of goal and Siwas having a relatively good game, they probably would now lose 4 in a row to begin the season. But for DC, as I said, very frustrating game. They had the chances to get all 3 points. And as I said before in the preview, the fact that DC are not capitalizing on these easy opponent that they have to start the season, this is going to come back to haunt this team as they get a tougher schedule as the season goes along. But at the same time, as I said before, I don't think with the way that both of these teams have played in the beginning of the season, they don't really look like teams that I think could be a play off contender by the end of the season. And I know it's still early in the season, but both of these teams have kind of got off to a bit of a rough start in the beginning of the year. Even if people will remind me that DC have not lost a single game. And yes, they haven't lost a single game so far, but they've only won one out of their first 4 games. That's not gonna do. Draws are not gonna do it, especially when you're facing against easy opponents. But now moving on in the next match, we got the last 7:30 kickoff, which is NYCFC versus New England. So the good news for the Revs is that they finally scored a goal after becoming the last team to not score a goal in this season. They finally got one in this one. But the bad news is it was an own goal, and they still technically have not scored a goal from any of their players. And even worse news, it's another L that Caleb Porter's side will have to stomach. Now, in the first half, the first goal of the game did see Parks' header that was robbed by Ivicic from point blank effort, though not much really happened in the first 25 minutes. So while these two 7:30 games were relatively excited in the first 20 minutes, so not so much in this one. In fact, the next shot of the game, and actually this isn't even a shot. This is actually an own goal that was scored from Thiago Martins, and yeah, that is one that Thiago Martins team would not want to look back because he got it all wrong with the clearance there and basically whiffs on it to a point where it ends up into his own net. And yeah, just like that, New England took a 1-0 lead, and I'm pretty sure that was not how New England drawed it on the board in terms of scoring their first goal after 4 games, but they will absolutely take it. They lead 1-0 up to this point. Illich did look to respond for NYCFC, but his header was wide there. But in the 38th minute, NYCFC would restore parity as Julian Fernandez he scored from Hannes Wolf to tie the game up at one apiece. Ganago did look to respond for the Rams, but he was denied by Freeze in the 41st minute, and then Alonso Martinez would put it wide from close in the first minute stoppage time of the first half. But we do head to halftime, all tied up at one apiece in this game. In the second half, there was a shout for a handball not given for NYCFC, and this is when NYCFC really started to take over this game. It was pressing for the lead. Shorewood puts it wide from close in the 60th minute before Martinez puts it wide from long range, as NYCFC was definitely pushing for that second goal and the lead as well. And they do exactly that in the 68th minute, as Alonso Martinez would make it 2-1 in this game. Ivicic did make a great save to deny Parks there, but Martinez was just in the right place, right time to hit this one off the volley to make it 2-1 in favor of NYCFC. Morales did look to make it 3-1, but he missed wide there. NYCFC, no doubt, was looking to try to get the third goal, and the Rams, yeah, it feels like they're waved the white flag. Like you can kind of tell the body language as soon as that second goal went in for NYCFC that New England, and it seems like it's over for them. And with how bad of a start this season has been, it's no surprise that that's kind of the body language that's shown with this team. And as we fast forward to the first minute of stoppage time, Ojeda would put one into the Stein netting, and in the end, it was a relatively comfortable 2-1 win that NYCFC had. And I say comfortable, but they did have to come from behind in this game, but it didn't felt like they were going to potentially blow this 2-1 lead to NYCFC because the refs pretty much offered no pushback whatsoever late in this game. The shots in this one, 11 shots compared to 6 that New England has, only 1 shot on goal compared to 4 that NYCFC had. I believe New England has only had 6 shots on goal in the first 4 games. That is by far the worst mark in MLS, and it's kind of explained why this has just been a miserable start to the season and how the seats are get even hotter now for Caleb Porter and him potentially be the first head coach to end up in the chopping block this season. 2 shots off target for the 5 that NYCFC had. 1 shot that was blocked compared to 3 that New England has. Oh, did I say 2 shots that was blocked? I meant 2 shots off target compared to the 5 that NYCFC had. 3 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that NYCFC had. And possession-wise, New England had slightly more of the possession, with 53% possession compared to 47% possession that NYCFC had. But yeah, it's another loss in the book for New England. It's getting to a point where I might even say New England might be just like TFC, where they're already maybe even thinking about the start of next season with how bad the start of this year has been. And I'll give New England a little bit more leeway because I'm thinking eventually the amount of turnover that they made this offseason and the moves that they made, eventually some of these new players will settle in and things are gonna go the right way. But even then, how long is that going to take? It might take too long to a point where we all know that if you're a Refs fan, you know what's the main purpose is and what's the main problem with this team. It's got to be Caleb Porter in terms of him clearly doesn't know how to get the best out of this team. And like I said, I would not be surprised he might not even last. I'll be surprised if he even lasts till August. The way that New England is running right now. But that being said, moving on into the next game, and now let's talk about the meltdown that we saw in this game between Sporting KC versus Minnesota United. And by the way, this is the first time that I actually wear my Kansas City Wizard jersey that I actually got about a month ago. I was gonna wear this eventually when Sporting KC finally end this 10-game losing streak, and well, the good news is they finally ended, and they ended in a dramatic fashion. But as a Minnesota United fan, I mean, I've seen so many meltdowns with this team ever since I supported this team when they came into the league in 2017, and I gotta say this meltdown probably right up there as one of the biggest meltdown I've ever seen with this team. I would say right on par, probably to the meltdown that they had in that Western Conference final in 2020, or even the meltdown that they had against the Galaxy couple of years ago, where I actually was in person for this. I was at Dignity Health Sports Park when I witnessed Minnesota completely went into meltdown mode and blew a 3-1 lead, only to lose 4-3 to the Galaxy. And while this was not a loss in the end for Minnesota, it absolutely felt like a loss with the way that they just completely hit the self destruction button after the 67-minute. Now, in the first half, as expected, Sporting KC had all the possession as Minnesota was elected to sit deep and counter. Olo Ishii was in on goal there, but he missed one in the 11th minute. Yeah, that's a typical Tani kind of moment. And honestly, Lee, I was getting to a point where like, is he ever going to score a goal again for this Minnesota team? Good news is he does in this game. But up to this point, he was still absolutely snake bait. Just could not buy a goal whatsoever. But you know who can buy a goal? Hassani Dotson, as he scored in the 15th minute from Duggins to give Minnesota a 1-0 lead. And this was your typical bangers only goal for Hassani Dotson. And I would say, out of all the bangers only goal that Hassani Dotson have scored all these years for Minnesota, this is probably the best one. I mean, the fact that he hits this one off the volley like that in the top end, I mean, that is one that not only is hands down the goal of the week this week, but probably maybe in contention for goal of the year as well. The technique to hit that one off the volley like that, especially put it with pace and hit it into top left like that. I mean, take a bow, Hassani Dotson, in terms of the goals that he scored here. But Le did look to make it 2-0, but he puts it wide from close range. It was all Minnesota up to this point. Despite Sporting KC had more of the possession, I mean, they just play right into the game that the Loons likes to play in a game style that Eric Ramsey likes to play, and it just kind of feels like it's one of those nights for Sporting again, because in the 31st minute, Minnesota make it 2-0, and the drought finally over as Tani Niolo Ashari finally score a goal from Lawane to make it 2-0 in favor of Minnesota. And of all the negativity I will say coming out of this game for Minnesota, the lone bright spell I would say about this is the fact that Townie finally got a goal and finally get that monkey off the back, because I was getting really concerned with the way that Stroud has gone through, and you can clearly see his confidence is completely shot on in these last couple of games and even in the beginning of the season. But finally getting a goal, you can see looks like that confidence was back. And in fact, it looked like he was gonna make it 2-0 in the 40th minute. But he missed wide there, because as a reminder, just because he broke the drought doesn't mean it's gonna be an instant floodgates that he's gonna score a ton of goals. The orange board then came out because we did have some snow flurry that falling in Kansas City. So you just kind of had a feeling this is going to be one of those games, isn't it? Where there's going to be crazy things that happen when the orange ball is in place. But in the third minute stoppage time, Tommy Wood puts it wide from closes. That was really the first big opportunity that Sporting has up to this point. But we do head to halftime with Sporting KC losing 2-0, or in this case Minnesota leading 2-0, and it didn't look like they had any chance of coming back. I mean, in the 46th minute, literally just 21 seconds into this game, Oluwaseyi would score again from Pereira and Le to make it 3-0 in favor of Minnesota. It also came off of a turnover for Sporting KC, and you're thinking, yep, it's over. We can. I was already thinking about once again and singing Wonder Wall while I'm ground hopping there, and they even had a chance to make it 4-0 a couple of times too. As in the 50th minute, Polscam would deny Dotson from close range before he denied Tani of his hat trick in the 58th minute. And I even wrote this could get ugly for Sporting KC, because the Loons, they looked like they didn't want to let off. They were pushing hard to try to get the fourth goal, and then this is when the meltdown happened. And even though I didn't write this, what really began the meltdown was when Eric Ramsey inexplicably decided to change the formation. And how many times that I've said this, or at least I don't know if I said this enough this season, that anytime when you decide to change your formation, it doesn't matter how many goals you're up. Anytime when you decide to change the formation and also decide to go conservative, it's not going to go well. We've seen teams when they decide to change formation and it just completely screwed up the the balance of the team. And lo and behold, that is exactly what happened in this game. It completely screwed up the flow that the Loons have been used throughout the season, and especially the defense as well, because that's when we started to see the meltdown mode begin. And it started in the 68th minute when Daniel Showery would score from Libo to make it 3-1 in favor of Minnesota. Not long after, Morris Duncan's unfortunately score an own goal here to make it 3-2 in favor of Minnesota. That's when I knew, yep, here we go again. I've seen this story before so many times. It feels like the meltdown is being activated once again for this Minnesota team. Showery would then puts one right to Dane Sinclair in the 79th minute, but then in the 80th minute, yep, the meltdown was complete as Joveljic would score from Garcia to tie the game up at 3 apiece. What's kind of interesting is that from what I remember from that epic meltdown that Minnesota had against the Galaxy in person, Joveljic was the guy that scored the fourth goal. If I remember, was it? Did he score that four goal? I'm not quite sure if I remember. I also remember that was the game when Billy Sharp, of course, got the hat trick for the Galaxy as well. So I might be wrong. The fact that Joveljic scored that fourth goal, I think it was Sharp, the one that scored the fourth goal. I do know that Joveljic did score one of the goal in that incredible comeback that the Galaxy had against Minnesota a couple of years ago. But yeah, here he completes the incredible comeback for Sporting KC from Garcia. But really, this goal could have never happened if it wasn't for just an absolute horrendous turnover there. I think it was Carlos Harvey, the one that turned the ball over there. That just it's kind of a fitting way to complete this epic meltdown that Minnesota has had. Postcam then denied Duggins from close range in the 83rd minute. And you know what's worse about this meltdown for Minnesota? They still had chances to win this game because besides the fact that I said Postcam is the only reason why this is a game where Minnesota has not scored more than 3 goals in this one. It looked like they had a penalty in the 86th minute as looks like Fernandez handball this one in the box. They go to VAR to see whether or not if that indeed is the case or not the case, and it wasn't the case, and it was the right call in the end. You can clearly see looks like that ball hit off of his face and then hits off of his hand there. So yeah, that's a little bit of a tough one to have to deal with, but at least because of the fact that it hit his face and then it hit his hand and his hand wasn't really outstretched, it was not going to be a penalty, but it was being called back. But even then, Minnesota literally had a chance to win this late in this game as well, and they probably should have won it late in this game. As Sunbin, he had a open net from 5 yards out, and it was actually Yoboa the one that worked really hard to set up this chance for Sunbin, and he guys it. I mean that is just if that's not sums up in terms of this game from Minnesota. I don't know what is. As in the end, Sporting KC also for the first time in their club history overcome a 3-0 deficit heading into the second half to draw 3-3 in this one. The shots in this one, 14 shots compared to 7 that Sporting KC had, 3 shots on goal compared to 6 that Minnesota has. 8 shots off target for the 3 that Sporting KC had, 1 shot that was blocked for the 3 that Minnesota has, and possession-wise, 68% possession compared to the 32% possession that Minnesota has in this game. And as I said, this does end the 10-game losing streak that Sporting KC had going back to last year. And most importantly, we'll see whether or not if this can actually really be a kickstart to them getting things going. I mean, even though they didn't win this, the fact that they show resilience, which is something that you definitely did not expect for a team that lost 10 in a row coming into this one. Maybe this will kickstart the season for Sporting KC, but for Minnesota, mark my words, if this team ends up near the end of the season, if they miss out on home field advantage, or God forbid, even worse, if they somehow miss out on the playoff by two points or less, I am absolutely looking back at this game as the reason why they missed out on that. This was just absolutely inexcusable for this Minnesota United team. And you know, of all the good thing that Eric Ramsey has done to this team, and there's no doubt that I still back that Eric Ramsey is the right guy for this team going for the future. But what he did in this game was just absolutely inexcusable and something that I hope he learned from, because again, how many times I've said before, you do not change the formation when things are going well. You know the old saying, when thing clicks, don't change it, or don't fix it, and keep things going. Well, I don't know why exactly teams don't realize that. I mean, even when you look comfortable in a game, we know in this league that crazy things can happen, and especially with MLS After Dark as being a thing, that no lead is safe in this game, and I'm just hoping that Eric Ramsey will learn this lesson, and I'm hoping that this team will learn this lesson as well, because yeah, the next game is going to be a game that I hope that they'll learn from this lesson. Though I say that, but the next game is the one where not only they have to face against the Galaxy, the team that knocked them out of the playoffs, but they're going to be missing pretty much almost everybody once again because of the international break. So yeah, that just adds even more insult to injury. The fact that they absolutely need to win this game, because I had a feeling next week they're not going to win the game against the Galaxy with how shorthanded that they're going to be heading into that game. And yeah, like I said, this was one of the most painful, one of the most heartbreaking resort that I've seen Minnesota has gone through, and I'm really hoping that this is not the beginning of what we could see before. Where I've seen this before in previous season, where Minnesota just go into meltdown mode over and over again, and again, hopefully Eric Ramsey will learn the lesson from this meltdown, and hope that it doesn't happen again for the remaining of the season. With that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the next three games, because we got 9 games to look at, and I need to change the board 3 times. So we're now going to go to the second board and look at the next 3 games of this match week number 4. So now moving on to the only team to have yet to lose or draw a game and remain perfect this season. Give it up for the Vancouver Whitecaps. I saw this one coming in the beginning of the year. Remember how I predicted them to finish dead last in the standings, and I'm pretty sure many people predicted them to finish dead last as well. Yeah, I hope Jasper Sorensen didn't kept the receipt from that prediction that I made in the beginning of the year. Now, in the first half, the first shot of the game did see Uger the headset wide in the 6th minute. In the 10th minute, Acosta would puts it wide from long ranges. I thought Dallas was actually on the front foot early in this game and were looking for the opening goal. Musa then puts it wide from close in the 13th minute. The Whitecaps did start to get into this game. They didn't really kind of start on time in this one, but didn't really create too much in the final third despite getting into this game. That would quickly change. They would quickly start to take over this game. It started with Vite had his long range chance that was denied by Paz in the 29th minute before Paz absolutely robbed Brian White in the front post on the ensuing corner. Yeah, that is one that you usually do not see Brian White not converts, but Martin Paz with an absolute robbery there to keep this at 0-0. And then he denied Berhalter from long range just 1 minute later, as not only the fact that the Whitecaps have gone into this game, but they were starting to put wave after wave of pressure against this Dallas team that just simply can't get out of their own half, let alone their own box as well. In the 44th minute, Blackman would heads it wide from close, but we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, Benedy would puts it wide from long range in the 52nd minute before Pass would deny White again in the 53rd. But then in the 54th minute, Vancouver finally got their deserved 1-0 lead. It's Tristan Blackman scoring from Angulo and Vite to make it 1-0 in favor of the Whitecaps. And normally, when you look at a training ground routine, move from a set piece, or in this case from a corner, usually doesn't work out. But this time it worked out perfectly for the Whitecaps, and just like that, like I said, they've got a deserved 1-0 lead at that point. Farrington did look to answer, but he missed wide in the 56th minute before Laborda would heads it wide from close. And I thought that Dallas was having a lot of problem dealing with set pieces, as the Whitecaps were not only looking to finish in this game and trying to get that second goal. But like I said, throughout this game, they were having a lot of trouble in terms of dealing with balls coming into the box. And in the end, despite the fact that Vancouver didn't find that second goal, Dallas didn't really show too much pushback late in this game. As in the end, Vancouver, they remain perfect in their season, and with the Union losing today as well, they're the only team to remain perfect this season. And I'm definitely going to have to make a video about the Vancouver Whitecaps, not only just to see the fact that they're perfect through 4 games, but also looking at their CONCACAF Cup play. It's hard to believe that, in the first game of the season under Jasper Sorensen, when they had that heartbreaking 2-1 loss against Saprissa, nobody would have imagined that that was the only loss that they suffer this season, and that this team would be going on this great of a run, and especially with the way that they're losing key guys left and right, with key guys like Jaden Nelson and Ryan Gold not being available, and I've heard there's a rumor that Ryan Gold could be out long term for this Whitecaps team. The fact that they're still winning just shows you the tenacity, and Jasper Sorensen once again proving everybody wrong, and that he legitimately is right now probably the early candidate of winning coach of the year right now with the job that he's done with the Vancouver Whitecaps. But now moving on in the next match, we got Houston versus RSL. So this again was kind of a desperation derby, as I said in the preview, between both of these teams. Both of these teams desperately need a win to get their season on track, and that's exactly what RSL did in this one. And it kind of helped the fact that they literally scored 45 seconds into this game, as Diego Gonzalez would score from Inelli and Luna to give RSL a 1-0 lead. Like I said, 45 seconds into this game, and I think that's going to go down as the fastest goal we have seen all season long. But in the fourth minute, Vera would look for another, but he missed wide from long range. It was a dream start for RSL, who desperately need 3 points in this one due to the slow start that they have in this season. But then in the 16th minute, unfortunately, they gave up a goal, and really kind of, you could say, against the run of play, because Houston really didn't get into this game until this moment, when Ezekiel Ponce scoring from McGlynn to tie the game up at one apiece. And in fact, to show you why the Dynamo didn't really get into this game, that was the first shot of the game for the Houston Dynamo, and also just some poor set piece defending there from RSL, leaving Ponce with space to hit that one. Not great defending whatsoever there. Gonzalez, though, did look for an instant response for Real Salt Lake, but he hits it right to Tarbell before Bassi would puts it wide from long range. As again, the Dynamo seems like they woke up. Seems like after that equalizer, they now have the momentum and looking to press for the lead, and they probably should have had the lead in the 32nd minute if Ponce didn't just miss an absolute sitter in the back post. And I will say that part of the reason why he missed the sitter was because he got bumped by his own teammate. I think Dorsey was the one that got in his way, and that's why he missed the sitter. Very similar to what we saw in the Atlanta versus Miami game, where unfortunately you have teammate just kind of occupying the same space, running into each other. That actually happens more often than you think it did, and yeah, there you go. That's exactly what happened. If Ponce wasn't bumped there, I'm pretty sure he would have buried that to make it 2-1 in favor of Houston. And then in the 37th minute, Tarbell had to be subbed off. Looks like he suffered a knee injury. So here comes Jimmy Maurer, a chance to replace him. And again, this was a guy that I thought he was the starter for this Dynamo team in the beginning, and I thought he would be the guy that would actually be the right replacement for Steve Clark. But now here's a chance for him to prove himself that he can do something. Well, it didn't quite work out, because after Dorsey flashed a wide from long range, and I actually got the wrong team name here. Let me just quickly change that, because in the 5th minute soft shot, really the first shot that Jimmy Maurer faced, it's in the back of the net. It's Diego Luna. He scored for Marchuk to give the lead right back to RSL. So kind of interesting, this fact that RSL literally score 20 or 45 seconds into the game, and then they literally score right at the stroke of halftime as well. Don't see that happen very often every day, but we do head to halftime with RSL leading 2-1. In the second half, Bartlow would puts it wide from close in the 50th minute before Kowalczyk would puts it high in the 52nd minute, as the Dynamo was pressing early for another equalizer. Gonzalez then hits one that was actually spilled by Maurer, but puts it wide there. So yeah, Jimmy Maurer, of course, with the way that he hasn't really got a lot of action, you can clearly see that he was a little bit rusty, and especially anytime when you're a goalkeeper that is not called upon, unless the main goalkeeper gets injured, you're gonna have those kind of moment. There's no doubt that I think Jimmy Maurer is gonna have some good game. If Tarbell is gonna be out for a bit with this Dynamo team. But in the 71st minute, McGlynn would puts it wide from close, as the Dynamo continue to push for this opening goal. But for the most part, RSL really looked comfortable defending this lead, and big part of that is because Houston really just didn't put a lot of these chances on target and didn't really trouble Rafael Cabral a lot. Though I said that in the 88th minute, Cabral probably made the best save of the night as he absolutely robbed Bartlow as he was pushed this one onto the post of a free header. I mean, it was a powerful header there from Ethan Bartlow, but somehow in some way Cabral with some cat-like reflexes, or do I say Nick Raimondo-like reflexes to push that one onto the post on off of a free header. By the way, I need to make more Nick Raimondo reference every whenever I talk about RSL goalkeeper, that is. But either way, that was a big save too because that preserved all 3 points for RSL as they get the 2-1 road win in this one. The shots in this one, Houston actually outshot RSL 18 shot to 10, but this is the difference in this game. 5 shots on goal compared to just 2 that the Dynamo has had in this one. Yeah, the Dynamo was pretty toothless going for it in the game. 6 shots off target for the 1 that RSL had. 3 shots was blocked for the 5 the Dynamo has, and possession-wise, 50% for both of these teams. And it's safe to say that there has to be a lot of concern right now in H-Town right now because, yeah, I mean, we saw this coming with the way that the Dynamo lose a lot of their key pieces this off season and the fact that they haven't really replaced them. I mean, the only good replacement they had is Jack McGlynn, but even him is kind of not off to a spectacular start compared to doing his time with the Union. There's got to be a lot of concern for the Houston Dynamo, and there's no doubt that I know they're trying to nurse their way into to the summer transfer window, but I just kind of had a feeling that whenever teams try to do that, it just doesn't work out for them. We saw St. Louis try to do that last year, and yeah, they waited way too long for that to happen, and by the time when things did get going, they miss out on the playoffs. So I kind of find it really curious, but at the same time, kind of also dumbfounded why teams decide to do that. I mean, I get it. The summer transfer window is where you get the bigger signing, especially from Europe to get done. But at the same time, when your team clearly has issue, you need to find solution or even just temporary solution to solve it because whatever Houston is doing in terms of trying to find some stopgap situation to try to nurse their way into the summer transfer window to get the reinforcement, it's not working out so well for them. Speaking of St. Louis, moving on in the next match, so we got what St. Louis City take on the Seattle Sounders, and St. Louis have now won the last 2 games. And although this game, no doubt, was not as pretty as the game that they had against the Galaxy, they still get a good win, and most importantly, their first ever win against the Seattle Sounders as well. They were 0-4 coming into this game, but they get the 1-0 win against the Sounders. Now, early on, not much really happened in the first 15 minutes of this game, but by the 15 minute on the first shot of the game, it's in the back of the net. It's Edouard Leuven, a beautiful free kick goal here from him to make it 1-0 in favor of St. Louis. Edouard Leuven is actually a really underrated free kick taker. He's actually a really good free kick taker, and this is an example of him scoring a wonderful goal from the free kick. And just like that, St. Louis were up 1-0. Hartel looked to get it to 2-0, but he missed high from close before Reagan would hit it right to Lund as that was the first shot for Seattle. By the way, Ben Lund making his first start in this one. Not quite sure why Roman Burki didn't make the start in this one. I guess maybe the new manager Olaf Melber would want to give his second choice goalkeeper a chance in this one. But in the 43rd minute, Manungu would puts it over from long range, and we do head to halftime with St. Louis leading 1-0. In the second half, Rodon would puts it high from long range before Durkin puts it high from long range, as there was a couple of half chances to start the second half for both teams. Wallen would then hits it right to Fry in the 60th minute before Fiera would puts it wide from long range. We then go for another period where not much really happened, which that kind of favored St. Louis, knowing that they have the 1-0 lead. Durkin then puts it wide from long range in the 77th minute before Fry would deny Hartel from close range. St. Louis were looking to try to put this one away, and it's important that they want to put this away because the longer you stay at 1-0, and I know the Sounders have not been great in this game, and to be fair, the Sounders are facing the same problem that the Galaxy is facing now, dealing with a lot of a key injury, especially on the attacking end. But if you leave the Seattle team in this game as long as possible, they're gonna find a way to get themselves the equalizer. And in the 90th minute, Fry would deny nine vector, but it fall right into the path of Marcel Hotto. All he had to do is basically hits this one off the volley. Not an easy thing to do, but we've seen players able to hit the off the volley and puts it into the back of the net. And it didn't happen because he mishits this one off the volley, took all the pace off the ball, and even though it was still goal bound, Nuhu was pretty comfortable to clear that one off the line. And I mean, will that chance come back to haunt St. Louis, who the inability to kill this game off? We've seen it before. Teams is gonna regret that late in this game. And yeah, in the 3rd minute stoppage time, the penalty was given to the Seattle Sounders, or was it given to the Sounders? Because they go to VAR to see whether or not. Originally, we thought it was they were looking at the foul, whether if Kessler actually fouled Leva there, but they actually revert. Or went a little bit earlier to see whether or not if Omar Vargas actually handballed it before that incident has happened, and they deem he did handball it. So what happened after that didn't really matter. I mean, when you look back at the Kessler foul on Leva, it is debatable that is either a penalty or not. But again, it didn't really matter because before that Vargas looked like he clearly handballed it. So yeah, St. Louis got left off the hook in a big way because in the end, it's back-to-back win for Olaf Melbert's side, but 1-0 win against the Sounders. The shots in this one, 15 shots compared to 13 that the Sounders had, but the Sounders only had one shot on goal compared to 6 that St. Louis had. Four shots off target compared to 5 that Seattle has. Both teams had 6 shots that was blocked, and possession-wise, 64% possession compared to just 36% possession that St. Louis has in this game. And while this was not a vintage performance whatsoever, and you could say maybe a bit of an ugly win for Olaf Malberg's side, no, absolutely. So they take it. They take advantage of a Sounders team that not only coming off of CCC play, but like I said, Brian Schmitz's team is dealing with all sorts of injury. It's not just Pedro de la Vega is currently injured. We just heard that Paul Arriola unfortunately suffered a torn ACL, so he's done for the season. And even Jordan Morris, he could be out at least a month as he's also dealing with injuries as well after coming off in the game against Cruz Azul. So yeah, this is gonna be tough for the Sounders to trying to get themselves still stay afloat. I mean, there's no doubt that I think they can. They have some really good depth to do so, but yeah, it'll be very interesting to see whether they can do so in these next couple of games. But that being said, I am now going to switch the board one last time to look at the last 2 games and the 2 West Coast games to finish off this review of match week number 4. All right, so now moving on into the next game and looking at these last 2 West Coast games, we start off with San Diego and Columbus. So the good news for San Diego FC, they finally scored their first ever home goal. Bad news is they're still searching for their first ever home win, and in all honestly, they probably should have won this game against Columbus because Columbus was really nursing late in this game. Now, in the first half, 8 minutes in, first shot of the game did see Farsi puts one right to Dos Santos. They look like Columbus was the one that is going to have the possession, which, again, coming into this game, this was the big question. Who is going to be the one will have the ball because both of these teams like to do so, but one team's going to have the ball and one team is going to be put in an uncomfortable spot of not having the ball and have to defend. And it seems like San Diego was that team to do so early in this one. But in the 11th minute, Columbus takes the lead as Max Arfson scored his first goal of the season from DeJuan Jones to give Columbus a 1-0 lead. We then go for a period where not much really happened. And then Dos Santos had to deny Russell Rowe in the near post as I thought Columbus was definitely the better team early in this one. Though in the 39th minute, Schulte did deny Dreyer as he was in on goal. And this came after a bad turnover from Columbus. This is something that is not uncommon for Wilfred Nancy's side this year. It feels like they've been committing a lot more bad turnover this season than we've seen in previous years. But in the 40th minute, it looked like San Diego scored their first ever goal at Snapdragon Stadium as McNair would put the ball into the back of the net. Problem was the flag did not agree with him that, so the goal was disallowed for offside. But there's definitely life in San Diego. They have definitely woke up. They were pressing hard to get the equalizer and get their first ever home goal. Ingvartson tried to do so, but he hits it high from close range. But we do head to halftime with Columbus leading 1-0. And in the second half, this is when San Diego really started took over this game because after Dreyer looked like he was the one that scored the first ever home goal, and what a fitting way to do so, score him being the first ever goal scorer in San Diego FC, and now potentially be the first ever goal scored at their at their first ever home game. Unfortunately, the goal was once again disallowed for offside. But as I said, the script seems like it's flipped. San Diego was the one that now has the possession. Schulte then denied De La Torre from close range, and then in the 61st minute, Amundsen would commit a doxo offense on Dwyer. There was a couple of times when Dwyer was able to find himself in on goal, and it was just a matter of time when he does find himself in on goal again that one of these Columbus defender was going to bring uh bring one of the San Diego player down, and exactly that's what happened. So yeah, Columbus was down to 10 men for the remaining of the game. Schulte would then deny Dwyer again in the 63rd minute. San Diego, as I said, they're in complete control of this game. Columbus was clearly in survival mode for these next 27 minutes, trying to hold on to this 1-0 lead. It did not work because in the 69th minute, nice, the first home goal that San Diego FC finally happened, and it's Valicari, the one that scored the first ever home goal for San Diego, and in the process scoring his first career MLS goal from De La Torre to tie the game up at one apiece. There's been a couple of times where San Diego has been very dangerous on the set piece, and there we go. There we go. This is an example of that with a beautiful delivery from De La Torre, and Valicari was in the right place, right time to hit that one in. And just like that, a historic goal for San Diego, but most importantly, tie the game up at one apiece. Rossi though was in on goal in the 72nd minute, but he just puts that one high. Yeah, that is something that we've seen Diego Rossi can do in the past, kind of scoring goal out of nothing. But that also might be a warning sign for San Diego because as much as they do have the man advantage and they're definitely pushing more men for that than you would expect them to do, they got to be careful not to get caught on the transition because a Wilfred Nancy side can also be a good transitional kind of a team. Valicari then hits it high from the corner in the 77th minute, and then Schulte would deny Maiton from close range. Minier then hits it right to Schulte. It was all San Diego up to this point. They were putting wave after wave of pressure. Columbus, you can see not only they're tired from the amount of games that they play, but they were just almost limping to the end here. Ariado then missed wide from close in the 86th minute before McNair has the last chance for San Diego, but he hits it into the side netting. And yeah, in the end, Columbus, they survive. They get all three point or not get all 3 points, but get a point out of this game. I mean, they wish that they could have got all 3 points, but deep down, Wilfred Nancy will feel like this is all 3 points with the amount that defending and surviving they had to do in the second half. But the shots in this one, 17 shots for the 7 that Columbus had, 3 shots on goal for the 7 that San Diego has, 5 shots off target for the 2 that Columbus had, 2 shots on block for the 5 that San Diego has, and possession-wise, 51% possession compared to the 49% possession that San Diego has in this game. And if I haven't said already how impressive I've been with San Diego in terms of their first couple of games, yeah, this is another their game as an example of it. Yes, they weren't able to get that crucial win to celebrate their first ever home win, but you can clearly see that this is going to be a team that it's not going to be like previous expansion team. Well, maybe in St. Louis, cases. St. Louis also had a great start to the time, and maybe this is where I talked about before how it doesn't seem like anyone has figured out San Diego and the system that Mikey Veras has had. But until no one has figured it out, this is going to be a team that could have a really good start of their life in MLS. Not only making the playoffs, but maybe be one of the top contender in the Western Conference as well. But that being said, moving on in the next game and the last game of this 9 game review that I'm doing to finish off match week number 4 is the Zach Steffen show between the Colorado Rapids versus the San Jose Earthquakes, and I might as well just write San Jose Earthquakes 1, Zach Steffen 2, because Zach Steffen simply stole this game for the Colorado Rapids. Now early on, he would deny Martinez, but Martinez would get a second chance and actually got his own rebound, but once again he was denied by Steffen in the second minute, and then he absolutely robbed Martinez on a fingertip save. Yeah, Joseph Martinez could have easily had a couple of goals in this one if it wasn't for Zach Steffen just kind of standing on his head early, and this again would kind of foreshadow what we see throughout this game as well. But the Quakes were definitely on the front foot. They were pressing early to try to get the lead. Chicho Arango would miss wide from close in the 15th minute before Wilson would head it wide from close. The shots were 7-0 for the Quakes up to this point. Like it was all Quakes in this one, and yet unfortunately because of Zach Steffen, it's 0-0 in this game. Espinoza then hits one right to Steffen in the 26th minute, and then he denied Harks from close in the 29th minute as the Quakes continue to press hard for the opener. But the question is, can they solve Zach Steffen? Because not only he's on his game in this one, but he's turning back the clock to his Columbus day. People forget that when Zach Steffen was with the Columbus Crew, he was not only a really good goalkeeper, but that's where he really made his name eventually making that move to Europe. Now, obviously, the after that things didn't quite work out for him, and that's kind of the reason why that he's now back in MLS. But people forget that he can have these kind of games where he just simply stand on his heads and keep his team as long as possible. And there's a reason why when he broke out doing his Columbus day that a lot of people make comparison of him being the next Tim Howard for the U.S. men's national team. But in the 31st minute, Espinoza would hit it right to Zach Steffen. By the way, with the Tim Howard thing, obviously that didn't quite work out for him. But in the 37th minute, Buda would then hits it right to Steffen. But then in the 38th minute, really just completely against the run of plays. Cole Bassett would score the opening goal for the Rapids to make it 1-0, and it was also the first shot for the Colorado Rapids as well. So this is pretty much like FIFA Ultimate Team level kind of stuff that we're seeing right now, where the Quakes had pretty much every single shot that up to this point. I think they had something like 11 shots already in the game, and yet the first shot they gave up to the Rapids, it's in the back of the net. Like that is got to be one of the most infuriating thing to see, especially as a Quakes fan. That's got to be a infuriating thing to see. The fact that this team could have easily made it 1 or 2-0 if it wasn't for Stefan standing on his head, and now all of a sudden they concede on the other end. Awazium did look for another, but missed one in the 41st minute. But to the Quakes' credit, eventually they did solve Zach Steffen, as in the first minute of stoppage time, Chicho Arango would score from Espinoza to tie the game up at 1 apiece. And if you can't solve Steffen when it comes to those easy chances, you might as well just try to solve him with an absolute banger. And that's exactly what Chicho Arango did. I mean, just an absolute rocket that even with Zach Steffen really standing on his head in the first half, there was nothing he can do about that. But yeah, that ties the game up 1 apiece heading into the second half. And in the second half, not much really happened in the beginning of this second half. That quickly changes in the 59th minute where Daniel denied Mahajevic from close range. Buda would then hits one right to Steffen in the 60th minute, and in the post would deny him from close range. I even wrote, "Am I watching the Quakes right now, or am I watching the Loons right now?" Because the way that I'm watching this game, this really makes me remember of watching the Loons play at Allianz Field with all these missed chances. I just thought, oh boy, it's one of these games where the Loons can't finish whatsoever. Now, I usually don't get that feeling with the Quakes because one, the Quakes have not been a very well run organization and a team that even in some of the home games that they have in the past, they don't usually have these kind of game where they miss a lot of chances to to not win the game because they couldn't even create a lot of the chances in the first place. But in the 67 minutes, Stefan would deny Arango from close before Awazian would head it right to Danielle. But then in the 71st minute, Colorado retake the lead as Calvin Harris would score his first goal of the season from Fernandez and Rosenberry to make it 2-1 in favor of the Colorado Rapids. They did go to VAR to see whether or not if there was actually a handball in the beginning of the play, and they took a very long time to look at this. I think the reason why they took a long time is that they had some technical difficulty, that is, but by the time that they did look at it, they didn't see anything, so the goal was given. In the 83rd minute, Martinez looked to respond, but he was denied by Stefan again because, of course, that's the case. Joseph Martinez must have nightmares about Zach Stefan after this game. Although that goal probably wouldn't have counted, or actually not probably, it would definitely not counted because the flag went up. And again, Stefan just simply stood on his heads again. This is probably one of the best goalkeeping performance I've seen in recent memory. Probably right up there in terms of what I saw with Maxime Crepeau against the Quakes with that incredible 14 save performance, or even when Joe Willis stood on his heads against LAFC on the final day of the season. Arango then puts it wide on the redirect, and then just for good measure, Bruno Wilson would heads it right to Stefan, which would end up to be his 12th save of the game. Yeah, in the end, the Colorado Rapids, or shall I say Zach Steffen, wins 2-1 in this game against the Quakes. The shots in this one, 28 shots in this game compared to the 9 that the Rapids had. That has been the most shot that the Quakes have registered in a game and not even get a single point out of that. And the same goes for the shots on goal too. 13 shots on goal compared to 4 that the Rapids had. Both teams had 3 shots off target. 9 shots on blocked compared to 2 that the Rapids had. And possession-wise, 60% possession compared to 40% possession the Rapids has in this game. And if Zach Steffen doesn't win Player of the Week after this week, because I'm pretty sure nobody scored a hat trick this week, so I'm assuming Zach Steffen's got to win Player of the Week. I mean, this was probably the best performance he has ever had in recent memory. Easily the best performance he have ever had with the Colorado Rapids. And as a Quakes fan, I mean, I can't even be mad about this game. I know obviously the Quakes probably should have won this game, but they would have been a little bit better with their finishing. But yeah, I can't even be mad in terms of the incredible performance that Zach Steffen put in this game. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of the review of all of these games. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of all of these games that I review, and I'm just praying that next week is going to be a little bit better for my team. That is. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys do like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.